Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Uncensored WP episode 5. My name is Wolf, your host. All right, folks. So before we get into this week's episode, I wanted to talk to you about a little something. I've had kind of an idea of sort of changing the focus of the show a little bit. So you may have noticed the first few episodes that we've done, uh, although they are reviews of products and services, they have had sort of a tutorial type vibe to them. And my thought was to make that more of the focus of the show. And I feel like the benefit of that would be that I can spend more time on a single product or service. Would allow me to do multiple episodes on a single product or service and go more into more depth. So for example, when I was doing the Spin Up WP episode, I could do a couple of episodes on that, going into more depth on how to use it and how to accomplish things in it. The same thing with, say, using Divi AI. Could have used something like that. Also, another thing I'm considering is moving this more of a focus to Divi related products and services specifically. So where every episode would be, rather than doing just WordPress plugins, services, and themes, uh, I would do Divi products and services. Maybe what it would be better would be to do the Divi uh, show as a separate show. So continue to do this show, but then maybe start a second show doing specifically Divi related products and services. So let me know in the comments what you think of those ideas. And I'm making this show for you. So I definitely want to know what direction you think the shows should go. Let's get into episode 5, where we are going to talk about Wordfence. Now, this is literally the number one most popular, most downloaded, and actively used security plugin on WordPress, with over 4 million active installs currently. Okay. Now, to put that into perspective, the next most used one is All-in-One Security, which has over 1 million installs. So we've got about a 3 million install gap between these two plugins. Now, I'm going to say this. I have used Wordfence in the past. It's been a long time. And I stopped using it because I found it to be extremely bloated. Okay. It was very slow. Every time I installed it on a site, I had problems. It slowed my site down and it caused things to break, et cetera, et cetera. That being said, I have heard a lot over the last year or so that Wordfence has like completely revamped and improved everything about it. So I figured I'll take another look at it today and we'll do a review on Wordfence and we'll see how it goes. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we are now in our test site for this week using one of my domains, commonbrain.us. Okay, so we have a fresh install of a WordPress website. There is nothing installed on here that didn't normally come with the regular install. Have not installed anything. Uh, we're using our commonbrain.us domain this week. So let's go ahead and get Wordfence installed and see if it's any good. See if it's improved as much as people say it is. All right, there it is. Now, as you see, by the way, there are several add-ons available for Wordfence to give you a few extra features. But we are just going to do the Wordfence security for this week. So we're going to activate the plugin now that we have it installed. All right. And we're not going to bother with a license. We're going to use the free version of Wordfence. Okay. So first thing you have to do is, even though they do have the free version, you do have to have a license for it. So we got to go over to the website and we got to get a free license. So there we go. Are you sure you want delayed protection? Oh, so what this is that the instant protection or whatever happens. Industries detect release firewall rules. Okay, so this basically, if you're using the free version, then you're going to have a little bit of delayed on the updates in the firewall rules and malware signatures. So we are going to go ahead and click I'm okay waiting 30 days for protection from new threats. And we're going to enter in a password or a email. Let's go ahead and use that one. Would you like WordPress security and vulnerability alerts sent to you via email? No. I've read and agree the terms and register. Okay, you're almost done. Your license key has been sent to wolf@hostwizard.com. All right, so for security purposes, I'm not going to open my email in the video. So I'm going to pause the recording, get my license key, and I will be right back to resume after that.
Are you ready to take your website to the next level? Look no further than hostwizard.com, the ultimate web hosting solution for your online success. We've got all the features you need to supercharge your website and make it a blazing fast powerhouse. Say goodbye to worries about cyber attacks with our top-notch DDoS protection. Your website will be shielded from any malicious attempts, ensuring your visitors always have a safe and smooth browsing experience. Take your global reach to new heights with our global CDN. Your content will be served up lightning fast from servers around the world, making your site accessible to users near and far, without a hitch. Get ready to leave your competition in the dust with our web optimization suite. Your website will load faster than ever before, giving you a competitive edge. At hostwizard.com, our team of dedicated experts is right here in the USA, standing by 24/7 to assist you. No matter the time or the issue, we'll be there to guide you every step of the way. Say goodbye to price hikes and surprise fees with our unbeatable price lock guarantee. Enjoy the same affordable price you signed up for, no matter how long you stay with us. Join the thousands of satisfied customers who have already unlocked the full potential of their websites with hostwizard.com. Sign up today and experience the difference. Let's take your website to the stars, together.
Okay, so we have installed our license key, and now we are ready to resume the setup. So it has a nice little wizard that you can use. So you're just going to make your site more secure. Take a moment to optimize Wordfence application firewall. So we're going to go ahead and click here to configure. Now, you can use Wordfence right out of the box. It provides a certain amount of security to you, regardless of what you do. You just install it and activate it. It does actually improve the security of your WordPress website. However, it is absolutely a strong recommendation that I consider very essential to go in and configure the plugin to make sure that you have all the best recommended settings and that everything is as secure as it possibly can be. Okay. One of the first things it does when you start the setup is to basically check your system type. So, for example, Apache CGI, Fast CGI, which is what we're using currently. It could also choose from a number of other configurations, including Lightspeed, Nginx, Windows, which I've never understood why you would use Windows on WordPress, but hey, that some people do. All right. Please download a backup of the following files before we make any necessary changes. I've already done this. I've already got a backup of the .htaccess, so I don't need to do that right now. So we're just going to go ahead and click continue. Okay, nice work. The firewall is now optimized. Click close. Like I said, this is the first time I've looked at this plugin in several years. So definitely need to take a look at it here and see what the options are. Let's see. So web application firewall currently in learning mode. Right, firewall rules, community, currently in learning mode. Real-time IP block list disabled. Brute force protection stops password guessing attacks. Web application firewall. When you first install the Wordfence web application firewall, it will be in learning mode. This allows Wordfence to learn about your site so that we can understand how to protect it and how to allow normal visitors through the firewall. We recommend you let Wordfence learn for a week before you enable the firewall. Okay, so there you go. And I'm going to go ahead and take that advice and leave it alone. But once you are ready, you just click here. You can either disable the firewall altogether or enable and protect. Protection level, you can optimize. The plugin will load as a regular plugin after WordPress has been loaded. And while it can block many malicious requests, some vulnerable plugins, or WordPress itself may run vulnerable code before all plugins are loaded. So we're up to raise the WordFence firewall. We already did that, so we don't need to do that again. And the real-time IP blacklist. This does require premium, so you'd have to have a paid account for this. But it blocks all traffic with IPs or from IPs with high volume of recent malicious activity. So, and that's using WordFence's own block lists. So WordFence keeps a pretty extensive database of known offender type IP addresses. So advanced firewall options delay IP and country blocking until after WordPress and plugins have loaded. Only process firewall rules early. Allow list IP addresses that bypass all rules. So this is good for if you have for you to put your own IP address in. This way you don't have, when you're working on your site and you're developing things, you don't have to worry about the security rules interfering with anything that you're doing. So that's a good idea to put yours in there. Now, so allow listed servers. If we click on the question mark there, it takes us to the documentation, and I'm not going to go through this. I just wanted to show you what that does so that you can see that as you're setting things up and as you're going through everything in here, if you have questions, if you need help in each section, you can easily do that right there. Immediately block IP addresses that access these URLs. Ignored IP addresses for WordFence web application firewall alerting. And that kind of goes along with this one up here. It just doesn't alert you if like it's your IP address. And here's the list of the firewall rules. So these are basically things that it will continue to fight against for you. So as you see, there's quite a few, which is why we're not actually reading through them all. We're just looking at a few here. We're going to scroll down to the bottom of this list. It is a very long list. And like I said, this list doesn't display in full by default. I actually, as you saw, I went ahead and made sure that it showed everything so that you could get an idea of the extensiveness of what it does. So now some of these you might want to go ahead and disable, I think, because I feel like these might be the kind of things that would slow down. If you're not using a particular plugin that is covered here, I don't see a need to keep these things active. So, for example, we're not using Jet Elements or Ultimate Member. We're not using Spectra, Project Manager. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but yeah, basically, I would say get rid of all of these, disable all of these that you're not going to use. Okay. That will help keep things fast for you. Brute force protection, we definitely want that enabled. So make sure that is turned on. Now, here's something. Lock out after how many login failures? By default, this is set at 20, which is obnoxiously high. Okay. I would normally I set mine at 3. I definitely don't recommend setting it any higher than 5. Um, Now it's up to you, of course, but honestly, I think 3 is more than sufficient. So that's what I'm going to set it out. Now, lock out after how many forgotten password attempts? So again, 20 is obnoxiously high. We're going to turn that back down to 3. And over what time period? So You usually want to keep this number pretty low, because a lot of times what you'll have is a bot will sit there and try to brute force you for hours on end at a time. And so it'll continue, and that will basically result in a DDoS attack that will affect the performance of your website, because it'll just keep hitting you and hitting you and hitting you and hitting you and hitting you. I like to keep this number really nice and low, typically around 10 to 30 minutes. I would rather have a 15-minute one, but since that's not available, that's not an option given here, I'm going to go ahead and stick with 30 minutes. Okay. So, in other words, if there are more than 3 failures over a 30-minute period, it will lock you out. Amount of time a user is locked out. Again, I like to keep this relatively low, right around an hour or to 30 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and 30 minutes. That way, if it is a valid user, they can log in again. And if it's not a valid user, it will prevent the people from logging in and again DDoSing your site in a way, or brute forcing your site. So, 30 minutes I think is more than sufficient for this. Immediate lockout invalid usernames. So if it is a username that doesn't exist, please note the real username and name is typed. Okay. I usually will have to say keep this disabled, because this will lock you out if you even have a little typo in your username. And that's not really a good thing. So I don't really recommend doing that. Now, immediately block the IP addresses of users who try to sign in as these usernames. For one thing, definitely you want to go with some of the default um, usernames that bots will try to use. Admin, webmaster, administrator. And these are just a few examples that you should definitely have on the list. Prevent the use of passwords leaked in the data breaches. Again, leave that active, and I do suggest leaving that for admins only. Enforce strong passwords, absolutely 100%. But this should be for all members, not just a few users like admins and publishers. It should be for anyone who has an account on your website, whether it be a subscriber, an editor, a contributor, an admin, whatever, it doesn't matter. It is my strong opinion that that all users should be forced to use a strong password. Do not let WordPress reveal valid users and login errors. I would say yes, keep that active as well. Prevent users registering admin username if it doesn't exist. Absolutely. Prevent discovery of usernames through author and scans, the OEmbed API, the WordPress REST API, and WordPress XML sitemaps. Absolutely. Disable WordPress application passwords. Yes. Block IPs who send post requests with blank user agent and referrer. This one is sort of hit and miss. You really have to play around with this, because it really depends on the configuration of your website. There are some plugins and themes that if you enable this, it will break the functionality of those plugins and themes. So be very careful with that, but it may be a good idea to go ahead and to put that on there. Custom text shown on block pages. Check password strength on profile update. Participate in real-time Wordfence security network. Allow listed URLs. So these are good URLs that you know are safe, and you can use them. You can add them to the firewall to make sure that things work. Okay. All right. So the next step on this is scan. All right, now, what this is going to do is it's going to look through your entire website, and it is going to scan it for any malicious content uh, or any bad actors that have tried to mess with your site. So you set up the way you want to scan and monitor your site security, including custom scan configurations and scheduling. Next. By default, Wordfence will scan your site daily. Start your first scan now. See if your site has any security issues that need to be addressed. From there, you can run manual scans anytime you like. Got it. All right, so we're going to start our very first scan here. And how long this takes really depends on the size of your website. So if you have a default website install like what we've got right now, it shouldn't take too long. If, however, you have dozens or even hundreds of pages and posts on your site or lots of images or whatever, in other words, a bigger site, then obviously it's going to take a little bit longer. All right, cool. See, look, finished already. And it found 0 results. So everything looks good and clean on here. So that is amazing. That is awesome. Next, we go to tools. So live traffic defaults to a summary view of all security related traffic. Details are viewable by clicking anywhere within the summary record. To switch the expanded view, click the expand all records switch. Okay. We don't have any currently, so we don't need to worry about that. Whois lookup. The Whois service gives you a way to look up who owns an IP address or domain that is visiting your website or engaging in malicious activity on your website. So this, I think, can be useful in terms of protecting your site from specific people who are trying to mess with you. So I think that is a really great option. The more you know about them, the more you can protect yourself. So import and export options. So if you have another website that is using Wordfence, you can import the settings from that site into here. Vice versa, you can export these settings to go on to another one as well. Diagnostics just covers if you're having any kind of trouble with the plugin or configuration itself. You can go ahead and check that here. Login security. Now, this is absolutely important, obviously. All right. Introducing the new Wordfence 2FA. Now, they didn't have two-factor authentication back when I used it. In fact, I don't think anybody had two-factor when I used it because it really wasn't much of a thing back then. But we are excited to announce the release of a completely rebuilt two-factor authentication feature within Wordfence. 2FA is an important layer of security that protects you from password guessing and credential stuffing attacks. Previously a premium-only feature, now is available for the sites running the free version of Wordfence. You're now able to enable it for any role. We've added a number of important security features and significantly improved the admin interface. Two-factor authentication now has its own IP allow list. That's awesome. And has a page capture feature. Cool. That's awesome. I like that. I think that gives you a nice, robust thing. Now, that being said, we'll go back up here to the top of this section here. All right. So two-factor roles. So this is where you set who you want to be required to use to whether you not want them required or not, and who you want at what status on your two-factor. So if you want to require everybody or make it optional, I like making it optional for everybody, because let's face it, some of us don't like using two-factor authentication. Some of us prefer other ways of defending our sites. But two-factor authentication is a good thing to use. I definitely use it on every site that I use, everywhere it's available anyways. But I like the idea of making it optional. I don't necessarily want to require everybody to use it. I do like to require it for admins, however, because an admin can get in there and really screw up your website, obviously. The grace period of 10 days, I think we'll leave that at the default. Allow remembering of the device for 30 days. I think that is a very good feature to have, so that you don't have to do this every single time you try to log in, especially if you're an admin. Require two-factor for XML RPC call authentication. Absolutely, definitely keep that required. Disable XML RPC authentication. Actually, yeah, that's even better, because XML RPC has a lot of security risks. It does have some advantages and some useful purposes, but to me, it's not really worth it considering. So, all right, so we're going to leave that there. If you are using WooCommerce, you can definitely set up the integration there. Since we're not, we'll leave that disabled, and we'll leave that all there. reCAPTCHA. If you have a reCAPTCHA key, you can enable this and enter that in there. I do definitely recommend using reCAPTCHA. It is easily the one of the best ways to protect your site from bots. So, all right, moving on. Run in test mode. No. Allow listed IP addresses that bypass 2FA. NTP is a protocol that allows for remote time synchronization. Wordfence Login Security uses this protocol to ensure it has the most accurate time necessary for TOTP-based two-factor authentication. So, yes, let's leave that enabled. Show last login column on WP users page. I like that. So you can see at a glance when the last time any particular user logged in. I like that. Delete login security tables and data on deactivation. Yes, I like to leave that, have that enabled, because if I do decide to enable, and I do that with every plugin, if I do decide to deactivate a plugin, if the plugin provides an option like this, I like to leave it enabled, because that way I don't have to go in and do so much work to get rid of all that data and remove it from my database. So click on save. All right, now that that's saved, you have a code so you can set up your authenticator app. You can also enter backup recovery codes. I like that. Wow, that is awesome, guys. Okay. I'm going to say that I'm actually very, very impressed with Wordfence's new two-factor authentication settings. I really think that is really neat and awesome. They are definitely robust. They are definitely full featured, and I strongly recommend using them. Settings, user summary, that's the stuff we already went through. Okay. So then click on all options, WordPress license. So this is basically everything we just went through at a glance. I do want to go over here and look at scan scheduling. So you're able to schedule scans, manually scan. Now that does require premium features in order to have scheduled scans. So you'd have to upgrade for that. But if you do have the Pro Premium version, I would definitely recommend using that. You can get free support on the forums, and so that is there. And then if you do upgrade to premium, you get a premium support and documentation at a glance here. That's awesome. All right, so this one got a little bit long, but yeah, that is Wordfence at a glance. One thing I do want to do actually before we shut down here, I want to go ahead and test the site because, like I said, one of the biggest complaints I ever had with Wordfence, and the reason I stopped using it all those years ago and replaced it with something else, was in fact because of the way that it slowed down your site. It was so bloated and it caused so many problems. So I want to see if it still does that. Now, as an example, I can remember one time when I had tested it years ago on a default WordPress install. I had a 100% GT metrics score beforehand, and then I went and enabled WordFence, and I went clear down to like an 86 or 87%, and it was just horrible. And it was just that was just with the default installation of WordFence without any custom settings or anything like that, and it was horrible. But as you can see from this result here, it is definitely much better now. It is looking good. I mean, look at that. We're seeing 100% with a 670 millisecond LCP. Fully loaded time was 1.2 seconds. So you may want to get that's a little high for a default WordPress website, even though it has a security plugin. So I would probably recommend getting a performance plugin as well, or doing some kind of optimization on your site just to try and get that down as much as possible. But yeah, 1.2 seconds is not bad at all. All right, folks, that is it for today. And like I said, I know this one got a little bit long, and I apologize for that. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. And again, please leave your comments about what we talked about in the beginning of the show today. The two new ideas that I had: number one, moving this more to a tutorial focus so that we can do multiple episodes on single products and services, or number two, moving over to more of a Divi focus. So we're doing Divi products and services only. Let me know what you think. Seriously, I want to know so that I can make sure that this show is good for you and that you enjoy tuning in each week. All right, so we will see you next week for episode 6, and you have a great and blessed week.